Hi everyone, it's Andy from Tales from the Hart and welcome to another Folklore Thursday. I'm back in my long haul today, not in costume this time. Good thing about it is, especially today, very warm, and while it can get nice and warm in here and toasty with a lovely warm fire, it also keeps the heat out and it keeps nice and cool as well. Now another interesting thing about these long hauls is we've got evidence of paintings on the walls in the Icelandic sagas. We read about paintings on the walls telling the story of the sagas and the gods. And behind me I have a very interesting one here, which is a fishing scene, which I'll explain all about in my next story. It is another Viking story. This one does not have Loki in it. So yes, this is the story of Thor's fishing trip. A long time ago, in the land of Asgard, there was a great feast. And this was a great feast, a feast fit for gods. The drink flowed, the food was bountiful, and all the gods were happy. And I say all the gods were happy, bar one. For you see, there was never quite enough drink for Thor. Just about enough he could get in his own home. But if he went to a feast anywhere else, well, he always found that the mead ran out too quickly for him. And he stated this loudly. Now Ran and Njord, the gods of the sea, two of the Vanir, had offered to host the next feast. But Njord said, I do not have a cauldron big enough to brew enough mead for you, Thor. Well, spoke Odin, I don't know of any that do. They all laughed. Tyr, however, the god of justice and war, who had yet to lose his hand to the wolf Fenrir, spoke up. I believe I know where you may find a cauldron big enough even for Thor's mighty appetites. All eyes turn to Tyr now. My father, Hymir the giant, he has a cauldron famed for its size and its width and the depth of its belly, and the taste of the mead that is produced within. If we could somehow convince him to part with it, but it is his dearest possession. Well then, shouted Thor, I will convince him. I have a way with giants, as you know. Although I do not see eye to eye with my father these days, said Tyr. Since I moved here to Asgard, I would rather you did not smash his head in, Thor. I will come with you. And so the adventure was set. Tyr and Thor travelled together across to Jotunheim, the land of the giants. And there they came to Hymir's hall by the sea. Going inside, they met Hymir's wife. She was pleased to see her son, but was worried of her husband's reaction when he came back to see not only Tyr, who had taken up with the gods of Asgard, but Thor, the famous giant killer, in their home. And she bid them hide. And hide they did, in a great earthenware pot. However, this was seen not only by Tyr's mother, but also by his grandmother, a giantess famous for her power and also having 9,000 heads. A bit random, I know. And while they tutted and worried about this, Hymir came home. All he had to do was sniff the air to know that a stranger was in their midst, as well as his son. And he looked about and kicked over pots left, right and centre until one stood in the middle of the hall. Come out, both of you. I know you're there. And so they appeared. I do not know how I feel about this, my son, spoke Hymir. You bringing not only the shame of your leaving us back to our hall, but Thor, none other than the giant killer himself, into my hall. Never let it be said that Hymir was a bad host. A feast shall be prepared. And a feast was prepared. Hymir strode outside and had slain 3 of his greatest most huge oxen for the feast and laid them cooked upon the table later on. Now, they set to this feast, Tyr catching up with his mother and grandmother, Hymir and Thor staring at one another, glaring daggers. Much to Hymir's horror, Thor ate 2 of the 3 oxen that had been meant for the whole table. He huffed. You may stay tonight, Thor, son of Odin, but if you are to eat breakfast with me at my table tomorrow, we must catch our breakfast. We must go fishing. Thor thought it best not to bring up the request that he had, the fact that he had come for this cauldron, nor did Tyr. So they enjoyed the hospitality for the night, as frosty as it was, and the next morning they set off. Tyr waited at the shore with his mother and grandmother, while Hymir and Thor pushed a great boat down to the sea. I hope you have brought bait. I have a spare rod for you, Odin's son. But I feel maybe we should stay to the shallows today. I would not wish to scare you with fear of drowning. How far out I go and the prey I seek. Thor smiled and shook his head. I am but follow your lead, Hymir. And so they rowed and rowed and rowed, and soon they were many miles from the coast. Baiting his hook with a pair of wild boar, Hymir cast his line far out into the sea. And not long after did he begin reeling in, feeling the tension upon that rod. Not 1, but 2 whales he had caught. Ah, he said, bringing them onto the boat and bashing their heads in as quickly as he could. Thor, this should be enough, surely. Do not worry. Do not worry that you are not as good a fisherman as I. You gods are not known for your abilities at fishing. Well, I would be very upset if I didn't get a chance, great Hymir, said Thor. I say you let me have a go. Very well, Thor, but have you brought any bait? And his mocking smile turned to an angry scowl when Thor produced the head of Hymir's best oxen, the one he'd saved from the feast. Obviously, he'd killed it that morning. Hymir, before we do go, I must say that the quarry I seek is a little further out than this. I would catch something a little more sizable than your 2 admittedly impressive whales. I only seek to amuse you, Odin's son, said Hymir. Row ahead, row on. And so Thor rowed, and rowed, and rowed. And soon Hymir found himself in unfamiliar waters. Odin's son, I think we shouldn't go any further, for I would not like you to get scared and embarrass yourself this far out and have me have to row us back because you have lost your way. I would save you that embarrassment. Thor smiled and rowed and rowed and rowed. Thor, Odin's son, yes, I fear the waters here are becoming too choppy. I would hate for you to spill out and find yourself lost at sea and drowned. And I don't really want to jump in and fish you out. I do not wish to get my tunic wet. For your safety, we should turn back. Thor smiled and rowed and rowed and rowed. Thor! Finally, Hymir could take no more. This is too far. This is just where we need to be, Hymir. Thor used the ox's head that he had stolen from Hymir's prized ox that very morning, put it onto his hook and cast far out. And as they sat there, Thor eagerly watching the water, Hymir nervously glancing about with every rock of the boat, he noticed the waters started to churn and chop and broil over like some great big frothing cauldron. Serpentine lumps were seen cresting the waves all about them, Hymir did not like this one bit. He was gripping the sides of the boat so hard that the wood began to crack beneath his grip. And then, from the waves, a monstrous head appeared. It was none other than Jormungandr, the world serpent, Loki's child. It writhed and it roared. Thor roared back. The boat near enough tipped over in the struggle, but Thor seemed to be winning. He pulled it higher and higher and higher. The beast struggling, ripping and tearing, flailing and crashing around the boat, trying to get back beneath the waves. Thor, his teeth gritted, his eyes bloodshot, was getting closer and closer to his prize. "Here, Hymir, prove yourself," he roared, laughing. "Ha! Hold this rod, hold it just for a moment while I fetch Mjolnir to end this beast." And Hymir took the rod, his arms shaking, setting himself against the gunwales of the boat. Thor picked up Mjolnir, ready to crash down, but before he could, Hymir had taken his fishing knife and in his fear cut the line. The water frothed and raged no more as the world serpent slipped beneath the surface again. "What have you done?" cried Thor. "That mistake, I fear, will cost us all dearly. I should end you right now, you coward. But you are my host, and so you shall row us back while I take this time to calm down." And so Hymir did row them both back, and soon they were upon the shore, Thor dragging the boat behind him, Hymir head down, both whales in tow. The feast was a good one, and it went some way towards lifting Thor's spirits. But he had not forgotten what he had come for, and with a knowing nod from Tyr, who had heard the story and agreed it was a good bargaining point, Thor spoke up. "If you would recover some of your shame at what you did today, if you would wish me not to speak of this beyond this hall, then I will ask of you one boon, and then I shall leave you be." "Anything, Odin's son, ask it from me," spoke Hymir. "Your cauldron," spoke Thor, "your famous mead cauldron. I would have it to give a great feast with Njord and Ran of the Vanir. Give me the cauldron, and I will be on my way." Hymir, while eager to get rid of Thor, was not so eager to get rid of his cauldron. It was in fact his most prized possession. And so quick thinking for one with such a hard head. Hymir was famous for his hard head. Well, that would be acceptable, but it is a famous cauldron. I won it long ago, and it would not be right unless you won it. Now, your deeds today were great, Thor, but I would ask a meagre demonstration for my wife and my mother of your strength. This cup, and he held up a small clay cup. Just use your mighty fist to smash it, would you? No hammer, just your fist. For someone that wrestled with the world serpent itself, this should be no great task for you at all. There was something in Hymir's manner that made Thor second guess his motives. There was something about this cup. It was small, it looked delicate, but it was covered in fine runes of magical script. Very well. He picked it up, turned it over, and slammed it down upon the table. Nothing happened. His hand was a bit sore. Again, it would not work, and a smirk was starting to creep across the giant's face. Damn this giant, he thought, this awful giant, this cowardly giant, this hard-headed giant. And then it came to him. The words Tyr had spoken to him of his father long ago. My father is the hardest-headed giant you will ever meet. He weighed it once more in his hand. "I may need a run-up for this." "Of course," laughed Hymir. "Take all the run-up you need." And so Thor ran to the end of the hall, ran and ran and ran with the cup in his hand as if he was going to smash it once more upon the table. But at the last moment, he turned and with an almighty crack broke the thing across Hymir's head. Now Hymir was knocked out cold. He did not recover for many hours. And by that point, Thor, with the great cauldron upon his back, was well on his way back to Asgard. And from that day forth, his fishing trip was celebrated. Hymir, well, his treachery, his cowardice did not go unnoticed. And as he had tried to trick Thor with the cup, Thor saw no problem in telling all of what had happened. And that tale spread far and wide. And while the gods in the realm of Asgard enjoyed great feast with much mead, down here on Midgard it was celebrated as well. And this picture just here, which I shall take you closer to see, is Thor and Hymir's fishing trip. And that is actually inspired by a cross called the Gosforth cross, which bears a few different Norse pictures carved into them. Thank you for joining me again for this Folklore Thursday. We are looking forward, actually, for the next couple of weeks. We are going to be giving a few important and exciting announcements over the next coming couple of Thursdays. Some really exciting stuff happening soon. So please do tune back into us. Like, subscribe, share, the usual stuff. And as always, if you do feel like saying thank you to this video rather than saying it to us, although we do always appreciate a good bit of feedback, if you would follow the link below and donate to the Trussell Trust. They are doing some amazing work at the moment with very vulnerable people and vulnerable families who have been affected by coronavirus and various other things. So yes, please donate or forward this to someone who might be able to. So until next Thursday, thank you very much for joining me. Stay safe, everyone. Goodbye.